Hi everyone, welcome to another show on Tiebreak. I'm Aaron Kumar, and as usual I'm delighted to say I'm joined by my good friend, the editor of Cricket World, John Pennington. John, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Aaron. How are you?
Yeah, doing very well, John. Another week goes by and plenty to talk about, as we say, off the field as well as on the field. Unless you're on Mars or somewhere else, it'd be impossible to have escaped the fact that KP's had a book coming out and obviously was out on Thursday. We've both been having a look at it. What are your thoughts, JP? Obviously it's been a very interesting read. We were both talking about it just now and there's so much to talk about. I mean, clearly he had some grievances, didn't he, after reading that?
Yeah, it certainly did. I mean, I was lucky enough to get hold of a copy on Tuesday, so I sort of got well into it before maybe a few other people had. But yeah, it's a brutally honest account of his time in the England team, certainly the last sort of 3 or 4 years when it all starts to go wrong, why it starts to go wrong, who he blames for that, principally Andy Flower, the ECB, Matthew Pryor. But it's very honest, it's very personal. He admits that he's made mistakes and he goes into quite a lot of detail about some of the things that bother him on a sort of daily basis. So a really interesting read. It is obviously his side of the story, but we have seen players, Chris Tremblay mostly come out and say, we're glad that KP's side of the story is out and now people know what was happening around that time. So it's certainly got a lot of people talking, and I'm sure they will continue to talk because we've seen all sorts of little disputes on Twitter and elsewhere this week as well. But a brutally honest read, but a really good read. It was superbly well written by both him and David Walsh. It really came across as if it was him talking, and it's very frank and open manner. So yeah, a really interesting read, and it has raised a lot of questions as well. What did you make of it, Aaron?
No, I completely agree. I love the way it was so frank. I love the way that so many things, both either in the media or as fans, like for many years, we were given a perception, weren't we? We were given a perception that, like for example, he talks about things that were being leaked out here and there, him to make it look like a bad guy. As you say, there are two sides to every story, but I did, as you say, the way the book was written, it came over like he was having a conversation with you, he was recollecting his events, and it really did make you feel like you're part of that, understanding what he was going through. And yeah, it was very, very, very well written actually. And I think JP, I'm right in saying that fans have an opportunity to win a signed copy, don't they, through Cricket World?
They do. We've got 5 signed copies available, so head over to cricketworld.com and click onto our competition section, and you can have a copy signed by KP, which of course none of you I have got, so you can get one over on us. And I just wanted your thoughts on the ECB really, because in a way I've said all along, even before the book came out, that if they could they couldn't have handled this much worse. And on, I think it was Wednesday night, wasn't it? This document, I won't call it a dossier, it was a document came out, and on it were lists of KP's supposed misdemeanors. I thought, how badly timed was that? And its existence, it was just a disaster for the ECB, wasn't it?
It was a complete disaster, JP, and as you say, I don't even know what you'd call that. I mean, I think KP described that document as a joke, and if that, you look at that and then you honestly have to wonder, England's leading run scorer of all time in all formats, and the top run scorer in the Ashes, even though admittedly it wasn't his best series, but everyone struggled in that series, and you look at that document and you're thinking, is that really the reason why they fired him? It does raise a lot of questions, and if anything, it didn't look good on the ECB, that document coming out.
Yeah, it does, and I think one of the first interviews he did this week was with the Daily Telegraph, and he sort of said if they came up with a list, I'd have sued them.
Yes, I saw that.
KP.
Yeah.
They appear to have a list, so I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few, maybe, I don't know if the things will end up in court. We've had the whole Alex Stewart, Richard Bailey thing with the fake Twitter. Somebody's not telling the truth there. All sorts of other stats as well, with Jonathan Agnew and Kevin Peterson's wife. But I found most interesting was it gave a new perspective to Jonathan Trott's departure from the team, of course, and KP had obviously said to Andy Flower, you've got to look after Trott, he's burning out, and he wasn't listened to, and obviously at the end, Flower, I think he sort of admitted, he should have listened to KP, so I found that really interesting. It gave a new sort of dimension to Jonathan Trott, and had you asked me last week, is there any way that Jonathan Trott can come back and play for England again, I'd have thought absolutely no chance, but having read that book, I thought, well actually, now that different people are involved, he may be treated differently, and there may be a way back for him, so that bit I found quite interesting. That's sort of one positive thing we can talk about, maybe.
I agree, JP, and I found that quite amazing, wasn't it? When Trott went home, that was when Flower went to KP and shook his hand and almost thanked him. KP said he was flabbergasted because he had seen this all along. He had seen that there was a problem and he tried to alert the authorities about it. But as you say,
so there's so many different strands to it, really.
absolutely. But that has clearly dominated the cricketing world, and rightly so, because obviously KP was, he's still doing his thing in the IPL and in the franchise cricket, but he's England's leading run scorer. But obviously on the field there's been some stuff going on. I believe Australia have been in dominant form, haven't they, against Pakistan, JP?
Yeah, very impressive Australia, and I don't know if I've said it on tiebreak, but I've certainly put it out there on Twitter and elsewhere that I think I'll be very surprised they don't win the World Cup late next year. And they're sort of indicating my prediction. There was a couple of very, very dominant performances over Pakistan and the UAE. Steve Smith, brilliant maiden century in the first game that set them up. Pakistan yesterday, I don't know what they were playing at, 126 without loss, and they were bowled out for 215. Now, you've got to give credit to Australia for that. Mitchell Johnson was very good, but that is a very poor batting display from Pakistan. But they're in a bit of trouble in reply, Australia. But Glenn Maxwell came in and scored 76, and you've got to remember, this is an Australian team that's got no Michael Clarke, they've got no Shane Watson, and I think somebody else has gone down injured as well, but I can't remember who they are right at this moment. So really encouraging signs for Australia. Elsewhere this week, we've also had the West Indies playing India. They're playing the second ODI as we speak. Looks like Kohli's in the run, so that'll be good news for any Indians that might be listening and watching. But Marvin Samuels, a superb performance in the first game, got a big 100, took a couple of wickets as well. So a good win for the West Indies there, but I think India should be too strong for them as the series goes on. And that'll be a series, no doubt, that you'll be keeping a very close eye, won't you, given your heritage?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one to sit in the middle of the sofa there, West Indies playing India. Obviously my father's from India, my mother's from the West Indies. But it's been a good series. It was a very impressive performance by the West Indies in that first game, I think, given all that's happened. Darnie said they were a little bit disappointed with the batting in the run chase, but as you say, you do think over the course of a series India will probably be too strong, but it looks like being a well-contested series though.
Yeah. Okay, I think that sort of wrapped most things in cricket up this week. What about tennis though? Just give an update on where we are as we sort of, I think you said we come towards the end of the season, a few months to go. And also, what's Andy Murray been up to this week? He's adding a few events to his schedule, which is possibly causing a few questions maybe back into his ulterior motives.
It is, JP. Novak Djokovic is continuing his fine run of form in Asia. He's been absolutely dominant there. He won Beijing on Sunday for the 5th time in his career. He's never lost a match in Beijing, so he took out Murray in the semis and absolutely dominant against Burdick. When you think Burdick is a number 7 player in the world, a former Wimbledon finalist, and he was 6-love, 5-love, and he actually had match points to win that 6-love, 6-love. That's never happened in an ATP final. He ended up winning love and 2, which is still a mighty impressive performance in a final. He's in the semi-finals in a couple of hours' time. He'll play Federer. Those two always play out close matches, so despite Djokovic's phenomenal form, you can't write off Federer in a best of 3 set match. I still will give Djokovic the edge. I think he's going to get through that in 3 sets, and the winner of that match will play Simon in the final tomorrow. So that will round off, if you like, the sort of Asian swing, and then we move over to the European indoor swing from tomorrow, which obviously culminates in the World Tour Finals, which for the next 2 years, it's been for the last 5 years, but 2 more years at the O2 Arena. And it's a phenomenal event, best 8 players in the world, everyone wants to qualify. Murray had said after the US Open it wasn't a big priority for him, which I don't think many people really believe deep down, because obviously it's a huge event and he would want to be there. I think it was a smart move for him to say that, because he has to obviously take the pressure off himself in case he doesn't make it, and he was 11th or 12th. What's actually happened recently, JP, is a few of the guys ranked just above him have started to lose matches, and because Murray's had a few good wins lately, he's found himself in touching distance or not too far away from that qualifying spot. Now, what he's done, because obviously he lost fairly early, had a bit of a setback this week, lost to David Ferrer. Bit of a surprising loss, to be honest. Ferrer's never been that strong against Murray on a hard court, but he came back having lost the first set 6-2 and won 6-1, 6-2. So you thought there's one Masters Series left, that's it for Murray on his schedule in Paris, and even if he wins that tournament, he'd get 1,000 points. So they worked out that Murray would probably need to make the finals in Paris to have a chance at the O2. Now, he hasn't made a Masters final all year. So you thought, okay, maybe he'll add one event, and there was rumours that he was going to add Valencia to his schedule. So he did that. That's a 500-point event. I thought that's fair enough. He wants to give himself a chance and, be competitive. But then I hear he's adding Vienna as well. So now, while I understand him going after points, I can also understand some of his fans being concerned, because if he gets to the O2, he'll have played 6 weeks in a row in 2 different continents, and you just worry for him. I mean, I admire his ambition completely, and I think it's phenomenal. But for a guy coming back from injury, you also do worry for him if he might just be overdoing it a little bit here. What are your thoughts, JP?
I was just going to, something that's came to my head there. What happens if, and I suppose I know what happens in terms of, in one way, if he plays all these tournaments, qualifies for the sorry, I forgot the name of the tournament, the final,
the World Tour final,
yeah. Players are there with a mental blank there. Say he gets an injury or something, obviously the next ranked player would then come in his place, and that wouldn't look very good, would it? So I suppose that's where you're coming from, isn't it? Is he pushing himself too far, and that could sort of backfire?
That's my worry, and also for himself personally, JP. I mean, I think, although he seems to be recovered from the back injury, there were a few signs in North America. There are a couple of little niggles here and there. I just feel it's something that, for long term, I mean, the fans want to see him winning Grand Slams again. Don't get me wrong, the World Tour Finals is a very prestigious event, but is it worth playing 6 weeks in a row in 2 different continents? I mean, I understand the other arguments, the counter arguments I've seen, which are that guys like this week starting Monday, is a fairly, I don't want to say weak, because I don't think anything in professional sport is weak, but let's say relatively easier field, which he probably would be confident of winning the tournament. It's a 250 event, and Ferrer is there, who's now become one of his main rivals for a spot in the O2. So I can see the arguments for it, but you just worry, is he going to burn himself out and then be a little bit flat from the start of next year, which I think is when he would really be looking to make some inroads, and have a good year next year. So it is a tough one. You can understand the dilemma at the same time. But and I guess from a tennis point of view, it's quite interesting now, because you've got Djokovic might be taking time off in Paris, so he's on the way to sealing that world number 1 spot, JP. But it's still Federer's in with a chance, which is incredible, seeing as Federer was number 8 last year. So he's done pretty well. So that pretty much rounds off the tennis, JP. I know we're talking about events in England and the O2, but the English football team have been doing fairly well, haven't they? Tell us a little bit about that, JP.
Yes, obviously it's 2 wins from 2 now in their European qualification progress. They beat San Marino on, I think it's Thursday night, an odd day perhaps to be playing international football, but that's the way of the world these days. It was very much a case of job done. I thought the second half was better than their first half, and it's always difficult playing with teams like San Marino, who've won once in their entire history. They come out, they almost don't try and score, they just try and frustrate you, and then they're very patient, kept the ball well enough, and obviously put it in the back of the net for enough times to win. So 2 out of 2 for them. What's quite interesting about this European qualifying progress campaign, is a lot of other teams aren't doing so well. I mean, Spain lost to Slovakia, and there's a couple of others on. I don't have them in front of me, I'm afraid, that have been a little bit, a few upsets already. So quite interesting to see some of the bigger teams not doing so well, and England actually, obviously they're taking it seriously, but they're doing okay. So very positive. Couple of games straight after what was obviously a horrendously disappointing World Cup. So all very positive for England. Yes, San Marino's not a good team, but you've still got to go out there and win, and you've still got to go out there and win well.
Absolutely, and they say winning's a habit, isn't it? So that's fantastic from England's point of view, getting into that sort of good momentum ahead of the Euros, and JP as well. I think with Formula One there were some updates you had for us.
Yeah, it's been a difficult week for Formula One. Obviously, they're just currently in qualifying for the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi. But very much the thoughts of the paddock and any Formula One fans at the moment is Jules Bianchi, who suffered a very bad accident at Suzuka. He unfortunately collided with a tractor that was actually recovering another vehicle. So it was a freak accident. He has a severe head injury, a diffuse axonal injury, which, if it's a severe one, it's not good news. That he may be able to make some sort of recovery, and obviously fingers crossed he does manage to make a full recovery. And he's young, he's fit, he's got a super team looking after him, so hopefully he will make a recovery. And Marisha are only running one car this weekend in respect for that, and fingers crossed for him. There's also, and I think that Monday we lost Andrea De Cesaris, former Formula One driver, as well. So a very difficult week for